So congratulations on making it to the end of the Bootstrap section of the Complete Web Developer course. You've been introduced to Bootstrap as an HTML, CSS and JavaScript framework. You've seen how easy it makes creating great looking responsive websites, and we've used a number of the components to see how they work and how easy it is to incorporate them into your sites that you're going to be developing. Now it's time to put all of that together in our Bootstrap challenge, where we'll be making an app marketing page. So let me show you what we're going to be aiming towards. It's something like this. So it's pretty straightforward really, but it looks nice and has really clear call to actions. So I've pretended that we're working on an app called My App, and we've got a nice nav bar across the top, which should be pretty straightforward. I've then given a background image to our Jumbotron. Now where you get that background is up to you, but if you do a quick Google of free high-res photos, there are a number of pages out there that offer these. I'd ignore the ads at the top, and the one I normally use is called unsplash.com. But you can see there are a number of others out there. Feel free to try them out, and there's even a few sites listing free stock photo sites, so I definitely recommend checking those out if you need some stock photography. But I'm going to be taking mine from unsplash.com, which has got a number of really nice high quality photos which you can use absolutely free. Okay, so that's where you get your background image from. We've then got a nice email sign up form there, and we're using some cards to display some more information about the app. Notice I've also got some really nice icons in here. I've just chosen some random ones, but I've done that with Font Awesome. You might want to jot that down. It's really easy to use, so I'd recommend doing that as part of the challenge, figuring out how to get icons from Font Awesome into your site. But of course, I'll show you when I go through it if you have any problems. And then finally, we've got a nice big download button, which of course doesn't go anywhere, but it's somewhere for the user to click to get your app. And you'll notice we're all connected up with Scroll Spy here, so as we scroll back up again, the links update automatically. So that's all you've got to do. Easy, right? Well, as always, thoroughly recommend doing as much as you can on your own and then watching how I get it done. Good luck. All right, so I'm going to start by clearing out my code here. So we start off with a nice clean file. So everything goes out of the body. And we're left with just that. And then I'm just going to switch over to bootstrap.html. There we go. All right then, here we go. I'm going to start by going to the Bootstrap documentation, and I'm going to get that by Googling Bootstrap 4. And here we go. I'm going to start with the nav bar at the top of the screen. As usual, I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. So let's jump over to the documentation and components and navbar. And as you saw, we're heading for a fairly standard navbar, so that top one should do the job pretty much in its current form. So let's copy and paste the code there. And remember, we don't need a container because we want this to go all the way to the edges of the screen. Excellent. So that's looking pretty good as is. Obviously, we need to update it with some information about our imaginary app. So I'm going to change the navbar brand, that is the logo, to just be the basic My App. And then I'll keep home as it is. I'll replace features with about, where we're going to have some information about the app. And then I'll just have a third and final section, download the app. There we go. Let's just check, make sure that's all looking okay. And there we go. Excellent. As I mentioned, we're going to have a login section here. Not that that's actually going to work because we don't have any server-side languages yet, although we will have quite soon when we look at PHP in a couple of sections' time. But for now, we'll just have an email and password option. So let's change That first one there to have a type of email, and we'll replace the placeholder with email. Then I'll just copy and paste that for the password, and we'll replace the placeholder with password. And then we don't want a search button, we want a login button. And I'm going to get rid of the outline here for no particular reason other than I think it looks a little better filled in, but you're welcome to keep it like that if you like. Notice that the placeholder is displayed, but when we start typing, of course, the password characters are hidden. Excellent. So far, so good. Now let's move down to our Jumbotron, which is still a word that I love saying. Here we go. So let's start off with the demo code and work from there. Great. So that looks pretty good as is, but we want, of course, a nice big image to make that look even classier. And to find one, I'm going to go to unsplash.com and let's just have a look down, see what would work well. We want one with a lot of space, really. That one looks pretty good, but we'll keep on looking. I'm liking that one. That top part there would be a nice non-intrusive background. So I'm going to go for that. Of course, you're very welcome to try another one. So I'm going to click on the image, and there it is, and then download. And there it is. Now I should be able to save image as. And I'm just going to pop it there on the desktop for now, because I'm going to do a little bit of editing with it. So I'm going to open it up in Preview. You can do the same thing in Windows if you open up the image in Windows Photo Gallery, which does more or less the same thing. And then I'm just going to select the bit that I want. So it's something like that. And then Tools and Crop. And that then saves the part of the image that I've selected. Again, if you're on Windows in Photo Gallery, you can do that in the Fix menu. And then I'm also going to have a look at the size because we don't want it to be too big. No, I think that's about right. It still may be quite large, 0.5 MB or so. I'd probably make it smaller for a production site, but I'll leave it as is for now. And then we can export. And I'll save it in Complete Web Developer Course and Bootstrap. And I'll just call it background. There we go. And I don't need to save the original. Great. So back to our Jumbotron. Let's add some styles to set the background image. So we're working with the class of Jumbotron. There's only going to be one. And we want to set the background image to have a URL of background.jpg. All right, let's have a look. Beautiful. A little bit generic, perhaps. It doesn't say a great deal about what our app is doing, but given that we don't actually have an app, that's fine. Obviously, you'd want to choose an image which is just as pretty, but is a little bit more specific so that people look at that and they can see straight away what your app is about. Excellent. Let's just update the text there to have something fairly generic about apps. So we'll call it My Awesome App. And here at the top then is you want a simple, compelling reason why someone should download the app. So this is why you should download this fantastic app. So effective landing pages convey a simple amount of information very, very quickly. When people are browsing the web, they're not going to spend ages reading your site. They're going to decide usually within just a few seconds as to whether they're interested or not. And you need to grab their attention really quickly, get the key feature of the app and make it clear that they need to download it right now. All right, then we're going to add the code for the mailing list. So underneath there we'll have something like want to know more. Join our mailing list. And you might even want to offer a freebie or something for your mailing list. People really like to get something for free, such as a mini course or some information, or even a demo version of the app, something like that. But it's always good to offer a great incentive to join your mailing list. All right, then we're going to need our form for the user to sign up to the mailing list. So let's jump over to Forms on the Bootstrap site. And I'm going to take the opportunity to use one of the ones that have a fancy add-on at the beginning there, just because I think they look good and we didn't explicitly try one ourselves when we saw them in the Forms video earlier on. So under there, let's add in our form. Let's leave it as a form inline for the moment and see how it looks. And then this label is not going to be, for example, amount anymore. It's going to be for email. And we'll change that to email address. Remember, this is screen reader only, so we're not going to be able to see this on our browser, but it'll be great for accessibility. And then I'm going to use the @ symbol to denote that this is an email address. And it's not a currency, so I'm going to get rid of the 00 at the end. And then we're going to make this a type of email. Class is still form control. ID is email. And I'll have a placeholder of your email. And then we'll change the button to sign up. And then we can get rid of the old button there. Let's take a look. Great. I think that looks pretty good. I especially like the blue on top of the blue of the background there. A couple of minor aesthetic issues. I think the email input there is a little bit short. I'd like to make that a little bit longer. And I think I'm going to center everything here. Just personal preference, but it's pretty easy to do. We just go up to our Jumbotron styles and add text align center. And we've got an ID for our email input already. So let's just give that a little bit of extra width. Let's try 300. See how that looks. Great. Excellent. So looking good. Let's just see. You can see it displays really nicely at a bunch of widths and even at a really narrow width. Like that. So now we're going to work our way down. So we're going to have another nice big headline here. But actually my code's looking a bit nasty, so I'm just going to do a quick bit of indenting to tidy that up. So I just selected it all and pressed Tab. And that already looks quite a bit better. There we go. So after our Jumbotron, we'll have a div with a class of container. And then within that, we'll have a div with a class of row. We're not going to have any fancy columns or anything here because we just want some simple content. But because we're using Bootstrap, it's good to use the default classes. Generally, it'll make your layout better if you do that. So let's attempt an H1, see how that looks. And once again, you really need to press home why your app is so awesome. And then we want some quite big text here. We saw before the class is lead. So let's try that here. So we're going to have summary once again of your app's awesomeness. Okay, I think that looks good, but I do want everything centered here. So let's give this class a quick ID of app summary, like that, and then we'll add a text align of center, which will make everything nice and centered for us. All right, in the next row that is, we're going to have our 3 cards. Remember, that's the cool new Bootstrap 4 feature that replaces panels and a bunch of other stuff as well. So let's click on cards and see which suits us the best. I think that first one should suit us absolutely fine. We will need another image, but we can get one of those. It's not a problem. So let's copy that over. In fact, let's just remind ourselves how we get the deck of cards, as it's known. One after the other. It's down here somewhere. Groups is not quite what we want because we don't want them too close together. We want a deck, just like this. Great. Remember, the really nice thing about this is the cards will all be the same height, even if the text length in each of them is different. And that's almost always what you want when you're doing something like this. So let's copy that over. And we'll put it. Does it come with a container? No, but I don't think we'll need one actually, because it has a card deck wrapper. So let's just have a quick look before we add our image. Great. That is going a little too wide, I think. So I will add a container class to that, because we don't really want it going all the way to the edge. Nice. That looks just a little bit better. So now to find our little image that we're going to use, we'll go back to unsplash.com. And so we just want a fairly small one this time. So let's see if we can find, oh, that'd be quite cute. I like the look of that one. We want one that's just a little bit wider. So if we crop just there, I think that'll look great. I may be biased having a 5-year-old son, but I think there's something nice about that picture. Okay, so once again, I'm going to right click or control click and save image as. Save it on the desktop. Then go back over to the desktop. Open it up in preview. And I'm just going to crop it to roughly the right dimensions. So just something a little bit wider than it is high. Let's try and get the boy's arm in. There we go. And then tools, crop. Don't quite like that crop. I'm going to undo and get a little bit more sky in. Let's try that. Great. So then we'll export that into Bootstrap, and I'll call it father and son. And we don't need to save the original. Okay, so let's change, remember, data src to src, and we'll just copy that up to all of these. Of course, you'd normally have different images for each of these, and they would be images that would have something to do with your app rather than just one that you thought was charming. Okay, so that's pretty good, but a little bit larger than we'd want, I think. So let's specify a width. Remember, Bootstrap is expecting 241 or 242 in terms of the width. So let's set card image top. to have a width of 242 pixels. Okay. We're not quite there. So we've got the right width. Of course, the cards themselves change their width. So we're going to need to make the image actually the width of the card. And we should be able to do that by just changing the width to 100%. And then it will make it 100% the width of the container, which is the card itself. That's better. Great, so doesn't tell you a great deal about the app, but it's a nice image. Okay, I did mention I was going to put in some icons here using Font Awesome. So I hope you've managed to figure out how to do something similar yourself, but let's see how we would do it. So we'll have a quick Google for Font Awesome. There we go. And it's just got some really nice icons in there. So let's see how we would get started. Get started looks like a good option for us. And then, we've got a fantastic CDN link. So let's go for that. Nice and easy. Of course, you can always download the CSS and host it yourself if you prefer. So let's pop that up there. Great. And then let's see if it's got a basic instruction as to how we add an icon. Let's have a look at the icons themselves. Here they are. So I've got a huge number of icons. I'm going to start with an anchor one because we seem to be at the seaside here. And you can see there we've got the HTML code for putting the anchor in. So let's try that out on our first one. Just at the beginning of the card title there. Wonderful. Let's just pick another couple while we're here. Bicycle looks nice. So I'm going to copy that one. And that's just going to go there. I'm also going to have a space to space that out a little bit. And then a birthday cake. Why not? Not quite sure what features these could possibly represent, but you get the idea. And I'm actually going to get rid of the last updated part at the bottom because that's not really relevant for us. Okay. Excellent. So I'm not even going to edit this text down here. The important thing to notice is that the cards all have the same height, even though they have a different amount of text in them. Great. I'm feeling a little bit more padding is needed for this part here, the why the app is so awesome. So let's just add that in. We've already got a CSS selector for it. It's app summary. So let's add a bit of a margin top, maybe 100 pixels. And let's try a margin bottom of 100 pixels as well. Great, little too much. So let's try 40 at the top and 50 at the bottom. Seems to be slightly nearer the top anyway. And a little bit more at the top, I think. Great. All right, so we're nearly there. All we're going to add now is essentially a footer row, which will contain the link to download the app. So let's start here. We'll have a container div. And a row div. And we'll have an h2. For download the app. And a final, as if the user wasn't completely convinced that they should. Really, why should I download this app? And then we'll have a link to the App Store. So I'll look on Google Images to get the App Store link, or App Store image, I mean. Here we go. That first one looks pretty perfect. I don't quite like the shininess. I think I'm going to go for the second one. When you're looking at these, it's worth checking out the size. So 901 by 312 is a little large, but it should be okay for us. But another more important thing to be aware of is whether they have transparent backgrounds. And you might not be able to see this on my screen here, but if you look really close, you might just be able to see a square there, a lighter, slightly darker, and then another lighter square. And that indicates that there is indeed a transparent background here. So it'll look good regardless of what color our background is. So let's download that. So we'll save image as. I just control click there. Right clicking would do it as well. And App Store icon is a pretty good name for the image, so we'll leave it at that. So you might want to resize it and make it a little bit smaller. That's up to you, but I'll leave it as is for now. And then here, I'll put it in its own paragraph tag. This is going to be a link, but I'll just leave the href blank because we haven't actually got an App Store page. And then we'll have our image. And you can see there it is, App Store icon. All right, that's probably going to be pretty wide, but let's just have a look. See how it comes out. Okay, great. It's a little bit too large for us. So let's make a few changes here. So first off, we'll give this an ID of App Store icon, and then we'll set the width to, let's try out 200 pixels. And while we're here, I'm going to give our container an ID of footer. And I wanted to have a background. So we'll give it a background color, and let's try aqua. We seem to be developing a water theme here. And a padding at the top of, let's try 50 pixels, and also a margin at the top to separate it from the cards above of, again, let's try 50 pixels. And I want to center everything. So let's try applying that too. Brilliant. So this definitely looks a lot better. You can see that there's no extra white on the corners there, so this is a nice transparent image. The major issue is that our background is not going right to the edge of the screen, and that's because we've got it set up as a container. I think probably the easiest fix, which should work fine for us, is just to remove the container class there, which is actually fine for us. So that's now full width. The only thing I'm not happy with is we need a bit of padding at the bottom. So let's add in a padding bottom of, again, 50 pixels seems to be working out well for us. So let's try that. Excellent. Okay, so you can obviously play around with the styles there, but there's only one more thing that I'm going to do, and that is set up these links with Scroll Spy so that we can link to different parts of the page and that it will update automatically as we scroll as well. So first off, let's set the links up. So we'll give our Jumbotron an ID of Jumbotron, and we'll set up that link. Oh, not there, sorry. Just there will take us to the top of the screen, and then about, we want that to take us to the card deck wrapper. So we'll call this about, and then link there. And then we want that one to link to the footer. So let's just have a quick look, check that our links work. About, yep, wonderful. And download the app is at the bottom there. Great. So let's just set up Scroll Spy. You remember that we need to add data spy is equal to scroll to the body, and then the data target, and that's the nav. So we could use anything here, but I think it makes sense to give this an ID of navbar, and then we can set up that data target there. All right. We also need to add a position is relative to the body for this to work. And of course, we'll need our navbar to be fixed to be able to actually see it when we scroll down. So we'll add a navbar fixed top class to that. So that's going to cause an issue with our Jumbotron, but that's easily fixed. There we go. So you can see that that did update for about, but not for download the app because it's not tall enough to get to the top of the screen. So I'm going to change a couple of things there. First off, I'm going to change the data offset to be pretty high. So let's try 150 pixels to see how that looks. And I'll also add an extra 100 pixels to the top and the bottom. Sorry, the padding rather than the margin. And let's have another look. So now we do get to download the app. That's just on my screen size, so it's not critical, but it's a little bit better. Now you can see home is highlighted all the time there, which is not what we want. So let's get rid of the active class on home. And then it should be active anyway at the top, but then it will switch to the active div. Brilliant. So finally, all we need to do is just move the Jumbotron down. We can do that by giving it a margin top of, I'd say, about 50 pixels. Wonderful. So we've got our navbar working well with our login. And as we scroll down, Scroll Spy kicks in. There we go. We've got our cards with their nice icons. And we've got our download link at the bottom. And of course, it's all brilliantly responsive. As we get narrower and narrower, everything still looks great. Wonderful. So I hope you enjoyed making that, and I hope you're inspired to make some landing pages of your own. We're not quite done with Bootstrap though, because one of the many great bonuses you get with this course is a collection of 3 great Bootstrap themes, which are the official themes from the makers of Bootstrap themselves. So in the next video, I'm going to show you the basics of these themes and how you can start editing them to make fantastic looking dashboards, marketing websites, and web apps. See you there.